Everyone talks about Caitlin Clark when they talk about the Indiana Fever. The sold-out arenas, the record-breaking TV ratings, the endless debates that seem to take over social media every single week. But while the basketball world was focused on the superstar changing the franchise, another story was unfolding right in front of everyone's eyes. A story that might actually reveal more about what happened inside Indiana than any stat sheet ever could. Because not that long ago, Lexie Hull wasn't being talked about as one of the Fever's most important pieces. In fact, there were serious questions about whether she would ever become the player Indiana hoped she could be when they selected her 6th overall in the 2022 WNBA Draft. And when Hull finally opened up about what those early years felt like, she revealed something that completely changed the way fans viewed her journey. What she admitted wasn't about talent, it wasn't about coaching, and it definitely wasn't about basketball skills. It was about fear. And once that fear disappeared, everything changed. When Lexie Hull entered the WNBA, she arrived with a resume that suggested success would come quickly. At Stanford, she had built a reputation as a fierce competitor. She was known for her energy, her defensive intensity, and her willingness to do whatever it took to help her team win. On paper, becoming a lottery pick seemed like the beginning of something special. Reality looked very different. The Indiana Fever weren't exactly walking into a golden era when Hull arrived. The franchise had been stuck near the bottom of the standings for years. Wins were hard to find. Confidence was fragile, and every season seemed to blend into the next. For young players, that's one of the hardest environments imaginable. Development becomes difficult when losing becomes normal. Every mistake feels bigger. Every missed shot feels louder. Every bad game feels like proof that critics might be right. And for Hull, those pressures began piling up almost immediately. The numbers weren't terrible, but they weren't what people expected from a top 6 pick either. Some nights she'd get opportunities, other nights she'd disappear from the offense. There was never a sense of consistency, never a feeling that everything was finally clicking. Instead, each season felt like another test, another evaluation, another reminder that professional sports can be brutally unforgiving. Fans often assume confidence comes naturally to elite athletes, but Hull eventually revealed something that many players never admit publicly. She wasn't playing freely, she was playing scared. And that changed everything. Think about that for a second. Most fans watch a missed three-pointer and assume a player simply got the shot wrong. Maybe the release was off. Maybe the timing was bad. Maybe it just didn't fall. But what Hull described was something much deeper. Every shot carried pressure. Every attempt felt connected to her future. Every mistake felt like it might cost her opportunities. Suddenly, basketball wasn't just basketball anymore. It became a constant mental calculation. Should I shoot? Should I pass? What happens if I miss? What will the coaches think? What will people say? Those thoughts happen in fractions of a second, and they can completely change how an athlete performs. The hesitation becomes visible. The confidence disappears. The rhythm vanishes. Instead of reacting naturally, players start thinking. And in professional sports, thinking too much is often the fastest way to struggle. Hull later explained how difficult those years became mentally. The pressure wasn't necessarily coming from one person. It wasn't one coach. It wasn't one teammate. It was the environment itself, a struggling team, a rebuilding franchise, constant losing, uncertainty everywhere. That's a difficult combination for any young player. And the scary part is that many athletes never escape it. Some spend their entire careers trapped inside that cycle. But then Indiana made a decision that would change everything, not just for the franchise, not just for the fans, but for Lexie Hull herself. In 2024, the Fever selected Caitlin Clark with the 1st overall pick. The basketball world exploded. Suddenly, Indiana wasn't just another rebuilding team. They became the center of attention. Every game mattered. Every highlight went viral. Every story became national news. The spotlight became brighter than anyone could have imagined.